Tonight we're focusing in on Zoom with Galaxy AI on the new Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Ah, a baby tiger. Check out his claws as he prepares to pounce on that frog. Close one, but not as close as this Zoom. We can literally count the whiskers and... Oh look, Mum's here. Good thing I'm nowhere nearby. Go wild with Galaxy AI on the new S24 Ultra and zoom in on the epic day or night.
Get yours now at Samsung.com.
The world of medicine, where every decision can change lives, your peace of mind is crucial. This is where Pattern steps in. Imagine insurance made simple, fast, and personalized just for you. With Pattern, you're not just getting disability and life insurance, you're ensuring your future and protecting your greatest asset, your income. In the past 10 years, Pattern has transformed the way over 20,000 doctors secure their financial well-being. Discover the simplicity of securing your future at patternlife.com or click the link in the description.
We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Tom Cronin, and he's a transformation coach. He's also a meditation teacher, and he's a creative entrepreneur. He's an author and a filmmaker, and he's got a fantastic story, spending years in finance as a broker on a trading room floor. And we'll talk about that and how he's into the work he's doing today. And I'm really excited about the conversation and love talking to creatives. So Tom, welcome.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for inviting me along today.
Yeah. So kind of set the stage, tell the audience, where you got started. Looks like you were in investment banking or finance and, you had that experience. So talk about that and how it led you to do what you're doing today.
Yeah, I was on a trading room floor, trading billions of dollars of swaps and bonds on international markets. Pre-Wolf of Wall Street. I started back in the same year that Jordan Belfort Wall Street started his career. So it was crazy times back then. And I was young and I even got swept into the culture and the lifestyle of that type of environment. Mm-hmm. And before long, I was doing a lot of partying, a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking. And the interesting thing is that my body was giving me cues all along that it didn't like what I was doing. And this is what it does. It creates symptoms, and those symptoms are mechanisms to guide us. But I just didn't listen to them. I didn't, hear the guidance that it was giving me. So I just kept doing the same thing. But eventually I had a really dark night. It was a very difficult time. I was having a lot of anxiety, a lot of panic attacks, a lot of depression. And this sort of culminated into what eventually led to a full-blown nervous breakdown at the age of 29, which is kind of crazy. That this, grown man at 29 was having this sort of mental breakdown. And that was really just, self-induced through the lifestyle choices that I was making. But it was in that time that I came across meditation. I was seeing doctors and put on medication and talking to psychologists, psychiatrists. But at that time, when I found meditation, and it wasn't something that many people had talked about or anything that I'd come across in my life, it was 1996. And so meditation wasn't a big thing back then, but for me, it was a game changer and it really did change my life. It was actually transcendental meditation, or also known as Vedic meditation. And that really turned things around. So interestingly, to cut that story short, I went back into my job as a broker and continued on for 16 more years, but just meditating and being, not taking the same sort of lifestyle choices that I used to, doing yoga, meditation, going away on retreats. And so life became very successful as a broker using those techniques and tools. And then eventually I decided I wanted to leave and become a teacher. So that's where I'm now.
very fascinating because I think Ray Dalio, he talks about how transcendental meditation helps him. And it's really interesting how you got on the ground level. And, back then it was kind of, closing your eyes and breathing or a mantra or, a sound. And then this was supposed to change the way. And now it's, that's revolutionary, but now it's, very commonly accepted practice in yoga and getting into your body. It really reminds me of, because how the body leaves clues and, kind of like, it's either, could be disease or anxiety, panic attacks. Really fascinating. So one thing is talking about is, so there's this mantra in the world. It's like, if you're in investment banking, if you're a doctor, lawyer, you cannot be spiritual, success, it's all about the money. How do you reconcile success and spirituality coming together?
Yeah, I think we firstly need to redefine what success is. Most of the time when we hear that word success, the first thing most people would think of would be financial. And then the second thing they would think of would be career. But what we don't really think of is the degree of fulfillment. And the ironic thing is that what we're looking for in financial success and what we're looking for in career success is fulfillment. So if we cut straight to the chase and find fulfillment first, and there's a beautiful Sanskrit quote, Yogastha Kuru Kamani, which means established in being, perform action. So what that's saying, being, is another word for fulfillment, to be fulfilled. And there's an essence within us, which is a bubbling up from within of love, bliss, and joy, which is the essence of fulfillment. Those are the three things that we're really looking for in life: love, bliss, and joy. And we don't get them in the career. We don't get them in our money. We don't get them even in our relationships. They're vessels or containers that can activate bliss, love, and joy, but they're very fleeting, unsustainable, and obviously quite often in the process of trying to get them, we get very stressed, which means that even when we do get them, and if you look at anyone that's got lots of success financially or career, a lot of them actually still struggling with things like anxiety, depression, or they just get stressed on a regular basis. So we really want to change our relationship with what success is and change our sense of values. And success really is a deep knowingness of who you are, a deep connection with your inner being, and a deep sense of love, bliss, and joy. And then from being successful, then go out into a career, then go and create money, then go and find a relationship to express your love, bliss, and joy into. And so it's about putting the horse before the cart. So that's how I would then find spirituality and success actually infuse into one. And I don't think we can really, we can, and that causes suffering. But if we do bring spirituality and success together, we have a much more fulfilling life. But a lot of the struggle we have in the world is because people are separating spirituality and success at the moment in the world. And that's why we have a lot of pain and suffering.
Yeah, because I see this a lot in my colleagues. It's like they're on that perpetual treadmill. Like outwardly, they're so successful. They have everything. And if they stop, they're like, oh, I can't stop because then I'll get behind. And, it's like they have to keep going, even at the detriment of their relationships or their body or their health, their kids. And it's quite interesting because I see a lot of doctors in my field, they experience what you did and then they meet, but you actually use spirituality to thrive and flourish in a career. And so talk about that, because you talked about first getting fulfillment and then using spirituality to succeed. So talk about that.
Yeah, so a lot of people think of spirituality as something that you have to exclude yourself from the world. And that has been the domain for thousands of years. But we're seeing this really exciting time where spirituality is infusing into the integrated life, where people who are what we call householders that have jobs and relationships and financial commitments are becoming more spiritual. And even Ray Dalio, the world's largest hedge fund manager who manages $180 billion worth of assets in Bridgewater Associates, he tweeted that meditation was the key ingredient to whatever success he's had. Oprah Winfrey, obviously a very successful woman, she said that it is from that space you create your best work and your best life. She's talking about the space of stillness in meditation. They both do transcendental meditation. And what they're talking about here is that spirituality isn't some renunciant sort of Buddhist monk with robes and sitting in lotus position. Spirituality is being able to access a bursting field of infinite possibility, infinite potential, and infinite creativity. So when we start to become more spiritual, we actually become much more creative. And when we become more spiritual, we actually become more inspired to express that creative potential through our being into action. It's really interesting that, yes, some people, very, very few people, will be drawn to the monastic life and not feel compelled to express that creative possibility into action. And they just want to sit in a monastery, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what they're called to do. But what I tend to find with people that start meditating, particularly a lot of my students, is that they get incredible creative impulses. They feel this incredible urge to create and manifest and do wonderful things, and they become very, very successful. And I say to all of my students, just take some word of caution, because you most likely will become very successful in your life. Two reasons. One is that you'll open up your mind into the field of mind where infinite possibility and infinite creativity exists and get incredible downloads. And the second thing is you'll remove that stress response, that overwhelm that we get when we get too challenged by the circumstances of life. Right. And so when we're expressing inactivity, a lot of people are so overwhelmed, so tired, so stressed, so anxious that impairs their ability to express fully. But if we take that stress response away, and that expression means you're kind of like that ever-ready battery where you just keep going and keep going and keep going. And you find that, yes, you have these beautiful moments of respite, like your meditation twice a day. You know, yesterday I meditated, went and sat on the jetty in the sunset and had a swim in the ocean. You'll tune into your body's need to replenish. But when your replenishment time is over, your ability to be creative and efficient and successful is much, much, much more dynamic. So yeah, I think it's a really exciting time where we're bringing spirituality and success together now, and that's going to make the world a phenomenal place.
Yeah. And when you were describing this beautiful response, it kind of reminds me, because like you can use meditation for so many different things. You can use it to find fulfillment. You can actually use it to find creative inspiration. You know, reminds me of the TV series Billions, where Wendy Rhodes is helping the traders like access the flow and that creative, like to actually, you know, make money for Bobby Axelrod, you know, whether that's good or bad, but, you know, this creative flow. And then you talked about, it's really interesting. So you went from broker to meditation, and now you're doing all this creative work. And talk about the Portal film and book project come about and what inspired it.
Yeah, you know, when I came across meditation, it was such a game changer in my life. You know, it really turned my life around in such a big way on so many levels, and really on every level. And I just couldn't believe that the world didn't know about this or wasn't doing this. I was just like flabbergasted. Huh. And this had been around for 5,000 years. I was like, if this has been around for 5,000 years, why is not everyone doing this? And so I became a little bit fanatical. I've eased off that a little bit now, but I was just like, I've got to get this into schools. I've got to get this into prisons. I've got to get this into organizations. I've got to get this into the households of the world, because this is a game changer. This is really the key to a more integrated, more loving, more enlightened planet. And so my books and the film were just mechanisms that, among many mechanisms that I've used along the way, social media, you know, speaking in front of large organizations, every means possible, just let people know that there is and it's not so much about meditation, it's about the human optimization. We have greater brain potential. We have greater loving potential in our heart. We have greater body potential. You know, we have greater spiritual potential. So, it's about helping humans realize their full potential, or fuller potential. I don't know if we ever get to full potential, but at least realizing the capacity that we have as a human is there, but it does require some tweaks to our current model that we have in the world. Sitting at home eating chocolate chip ice cream and watching Netflix all day long, or being on Instagram scrolling through that and smoking vapes. You know, there are other options to living a better life.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So the next question is, you know, we talked about, you know, just an enlightened planet, and, you know, kind of describe what it feels like, what it looks like, or just kind of describe it. And And kind of what are the biggest challenges the planet faces right now?
That's a good question and a big one. We face an existential crisis that is the potential elimination of the human species. We lose 10,000 species a year on this planet, and we don't blink an eyelid to that. Very few people wake up with any concern that we lose 10,000 species every year on this planet.
Uh-huh.
And yet we could be one of them. We're just another species. There's mosquitoes, there's amoebas, there's ringtail possums, there's Tasmanian devils, and there's humans. And so we're just another species. We're another animal that's coexisting on the planet. And there's a high probability and high possibility that we could eliminate ourselves through our own actions. And that could be through nuclear. It could be possibly through environment. I don't know if that's got the full potential to eliminate us completely, but it certainly has the ability to misplace us a lot. We have all sorts of food issues. We have chronic health issues. We have issues like, obviously AI is probably the biggest risk to humanity now. So we've got a lot of things on the horizon that could be a major detriment to us existing on this little ball of dust. But what does an enlightened planet look like? An enlightened planet looks like humans that think a lot more intuitively, think a lot more interconnectedly, that feel interconnectedly. When we transcend in meditation, we transcend our own individualized egoic identity, which is very separate and segregated from other. And that's why we're in this constant state of, I need that from you to make me feel better. I need that from there to make me feel better, because we have this very segregated experience of life that I'm a completely individualized being and I don't coexist with anything else. And then other things are just sources of my fulfillment or love. And that's one of the greatest, I think, causes of the suffering on the planet. But when we transcend that experience of individualized form and segregatedness and become part of a unified field, which is something at a quantum level is being validated now, and mystics have been talking about this for thousands of years. And this is a beautiful time where spirituality and quantum physics are converging. But what we start to experience is an interconnectedness with all things. And so we make very different decisions because we see other as an extension of ourselves. And we feel, as the field feels, love, which is the essence of the field. The other is a sense of us, which is just love. And so we act differently, we create differently, we build businesses differently. And it's very hard to harm other when other is an extension of you. It's just like getting a hammer with a hand and hitting your foot. You just wouldn't do that, because even though the hand hits the foot and they're two separate things, they're part of one whole body, and the whole body feels the pain. So we create a very different world when humans are enlightened. And I think the key to making a very different world is to get people enlightened.
I love that. And I think more and more people are becoming enlightened. I think it's called woke culture. And I think especially after 2020, when we know a pandemic, and now with a deep freeze or just prolonged heat or drought can wipe out our species, take out the food supply, water, and then now the younger generation is waking up and they're starting to speak out against oppression and more diversity and all of that. So what's the one thing people can do today to make a difference in their lives?
I think the biggest thing that I find, we create what we are. We act from our state of consciousness. So if we want to change how we act, if we want to change what we do, I think the best thing is changing our inner state, connecting deeper with our inner state. So for me, it always comes back to meditation. It's the tool that gives us access to a deeper understanding about ourselves, a deeper experience within ourselves. It's really hard to change the planet with the same level of thinking that's creating the problems in the first place. So we really need to change our mind, expand our mind. And interestingly, I just want to go back to what you're saying about enlightenment and woke. I think they're two very different things. We'll just have to be careful with that. There is definitely a degree of awareness and consciousness coming through in the younger generations, and that willingness to think more about the extension of the society that they're in. We want to be careful of ideologies, because in enlightenment, we actually think less, and we experience something deeper than thinking. It's a deep sense of a quiet field of peacefulness. And you can be very woke, but it'd be very, very unhappy. Whereas you can be very enlightened and be very hard for you to not be very happy. So I think meditation and thinking less is going to be a big part of the way we can move forward.
Yeah. I love that distinction, and not being, tied to one particular ideology, and just like a spirituality, and just being open. And how can people contact you and find out more about the work that you do, and, check out your social medias, etc.?
Yeah, the best place to go is Instagram, and I love hearing from people. I always respond to all messages. You can find me at Tom Cronin, or one word, TomCronin on Instagram, and my website is the next place to go, which is tomcronin.com. It's very simple.
Yeah, I love that. And for all the audience, Tom's resources will be in the links and show notes. Be sure to check out his social media, give him a like and follow. He's got 73,000 followers on Instagram and, YouTube and all of these various platforms. Huge thought leader, influencer, and all those will be in the links in the show notes. And with that, thanks so much for a very inspiring and enlightening conversation. Doctors dedicate their lives to caring for others. It's time someone took care of you. Visit patternlife.com to simplify your path to peace of mind. Patternlife.com, simplifying your insurance journey.
I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislumdphd.com, for more support. I'll see you next week.